Benjamin Franklin once said that by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. 76% of Americans think preparing for retirement is important, but only 39% actually have a plan in place. I'm Terrell Higgins, and I was able to obtain millionaire status in my mid-30s, and I have thought countless hours about what it would mean to retire early and join the FIRE movement, or retire at traditional retirement age. And whether you're retiring early or retiring at the normal age, the steps you need to take to prepare are the same. And today we're going to be giving you a better understanding of what those steps you need to take are to actually prepare for retirement. Let's get into it. Managing your personal finances is a lot like flying a plane. The most complex portions of that flight are takeoff and landing. And the first thing you need to know is, where are you going? How much do you actually need to retire? So the best way to figure out how much you need in retirement is to analyze your expenses right now. And once you have that number for how much you're spending on an annual basis, you can actually adjust it to see how your spending might change in retirement. If you look in the description below, I'll actually also be providing a link to a PDF summary of everything we talk about in today's video. So once you have your annual spending number, you want to multiply that number by 25. We assume 25 times your annual expenses because that's the traditional safe withdrawal rate. If you're just withdrawing 4% of your total portfolio value and you're getting about a 7% return, it's a very conservative way to estimate how much money you need for retirement. So if you have annual spending of $30,000, that's $750,000 that you need to save for retirement. And if it's $60,000, that's $1.5 million. And if it's $100,000, we're saying that's $2.5 million. You might be thinking, there's no way I can afford that. I ain't got that money and it's not coming. But there are a couple ways that we can actually adjust this number down to make it more obtainable. The most powerful thing that you can do for your retirement number is to lower your expenses. Most people, their largest expense is their home. That's over 30% of their monthly budget. So if you can put a plan together to actually pay off your home before retirement occurs, or you can relocate from an expensive area like San Francisco or New York to a less expensive area like Texas or Florida, you can drastically change how much money you need in retirement. And you might be thinking, Terrell, I already live in a low cost of living area. Or you might be thinking, I don't make enough to save for the down payment on a house or even pay off that house before traditional retirement age. Don't worry, I got you. So as the cost of living continues to skyrocket in the US, a lot of people start to realize that they can't actually have their dream retirement in the United States. And more people are exploring retiring to other countries. These are other countries like Portugal, Bali, Thailand, Panama. The cost of living is drastically lower. Let's do an example. The average monthly expenses in Bangkok, Thailand are between $1,000 and $1,600 a month. So if you assume that your monthly expenses are $1,400 a month, that's $16,800 a year. So if we multiply that number by 25, that makes your retirement number $420,000. That sounds a lot more attainable than saving $2.5 million. And there's actually a website called Nomad.com where you can actually scroll around and see what the monthly expenses are for living in other countries. So you can take that number, multiply it by 12, then multiply it by 25, and you can calculate your retirement number to live in another country. The next thing to consider when you're thinking about your retirement number is any income that you still have coming in retirement. So maybe that's Social Security, dividend income, real estate, a pension, or even you plan to work part-time in retirement. There's a lot of people who enjoy working, and even in retirement, they plan to do some sort of employment to keep themselves active and engaged in their communities. As of February 2024, the average Social Security benefit was $1,862, which equates to $22,344 per year. And this average benefit can vary depending on your employment history across your working life and what age you actually intend to draw Social Security. So let's do a little example here. So let's assume you start drawing Social Security at the age of 62 and your benefit is $1,300 a month. And then you intend to live in Thailand and spend $1,600 a month in retirement. So you have a $300 shortfall in your monthly budget, which equates to $3,600 per year. And if you multiply that number by 25, that's only $43,200 that you need to save for retirement.
How? Hold on, bro. How?
So I know what you're thinking. Can you even draw Social Security if you're living in another country? And the answer is yes. You can absolutely draw Social Security while you live abroad. And you don't even have to come back to the United States at any point to keep drawing Social Security. The US just has you fill out paperwork once a year to prove that you're still alive and drawing the benefit. The next thing we need to think about is the investment transition strategy that we're going to have in retirement. The portfolio that you have while you're growing your assets is not the same portfolio you're going to have in retirement. And you need a transition plan in place to actually establish a good portfolio composition. So you may be going from 100% stock allocation that you had across your working career in a broad index fund like Vanguard's Total Market Index Fund, VTI, to an 80-20 or a 60-40 stock to bond mix. 60-40 is actually the industry standard retirement portfolio. So there are a few ways that you can actually rebalance your portfolio. So you can do it all at once, which I wouldn't recommend because you run the risk of your timing not being optimal. Or you can rebalance over several years with several transitions. Or if you're still working, you can just redistribute where your contributions are going and slowly obtain that 60-40 ideal retirement portfolio. So let's do an example of what a slow rebalance might look like. So for the purpose of this example, I'm going to assume you're not getting a return on your actual investment just to make the math simpler. So say you're going to try and rebalance over 5 years and you're going to go to an 80-20 stock to bond mix and you initially have $600,000. And you plan to contribute $30,000 per year. So as you invest your $30,000 over the next 5 years, you're going to contribute $150,000. So at the end of that 5 years, you'll have $750,000 and you would have obtained your 80-20 mix. And if you wanted to do an 80-40, maybe you would do some rebalancing from that initial $600,000 to make up the difference. And this transition strategy, you kind of have to customize for your personal finances. And it might be worthwhile to sit down with a professional to see what that mix looks like for you. So you might be thinking, I have mixed feelings about bonds. Do they really perform well as a diversifier in a portfolio? And historically, bonds do a phenomenal job of diversifying your portfolio in a market downturn. But if you do not like bonds, you do not have to invest in bonds. There are other ways to diversify the risk in your portfolio. You could invest in real estate, or you could invest in commodities such as gold or silver, and they too can act as a hedge against the market. So let's compare these portfolios. So the first portfolio I want to show you is a 60-40 stock bond portfolio. So it's just VTI and the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF and the Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF to make up the bonds. This is a standard 60-40 retirement mix. And we'll be comparing that portfolio to a 60-40 stock to real estate mix using VTI and the Vanguard Real Estate ETF. And then the last portfolio we're going to be comparing is a 60-40 stock to gold mix. So the VTI for our stock and SGOL, which is a physical gold shares ETF. So if we put these three portfolios head to head and compare it to the index, you can see that the annualized return is the highest for the gold portfolio. And the stock to bond portfolio performs relatively well compared to the S&P 500. You don't get the same annualized returns as the S&P 500 would give you, but your maximum drawdown is much lower. And putting these three portfolios head to head, one thing that really stands out is this first traditional retirement portfolio is really lowering the drawdown potential of your portfolio, but there are other ways that you can lower your risk in retirement. And this gold portfolio actually has the smallest drawdown and the largest Sharpe and Sortino ratios out of the three portfolios, even putting it head to head with the S&P 500. And that Sharpe and Sortino ratio is just a way of measuring the risk associated with your portfolio. So the larger the number, the better risk correlated returns you're getting. So if you have a higher Sortino and Sharpe ratio than the S&P 500, you're getting a better return for your money for the amount of risk that you're taking on with that portfolio. So the next thing to consider in retirement is your tax plan. So your tax plan isn't something that unfolds all at once at the start of your retirement. It's something that you need to plan for across the 20 to 30 year plus time horizon of your retirement. And to really accommodate that, you need to identify the tax strategies that actually fit your finances. So as you identify the tax strategies that work for you, you can figure out the sequence in which you can apply those tax strategies and really optimize your taxes, not just at the start of your retirement, but across your entire retirement. Things to consider: if you were going to do Roth conversions, maybe you want to do them early on in your retirement before you start drawing Social Security and your income dips. Or maybe you want to donate to a donor advised fund, and that donor advised fund donation can offset the income spike from that Roth conversion. Or maybe you need to determine what your business transition plan is, what your estate plan is. Or maybe you have a parent who has a large estate and they're going to pass down a large windfall of money to you. And you need to figure out the best way to shelter that money from taxes. So as you identify those opportunities, you really want to sit down with a tax professional to plan to lower your tax burden across your retirement. So the next plan that you would want to have in place is your asset protection plan. So this one often gets overlooked, but this one is essential to have peace of mind in retirement. So what are you going to be using for health insurance? Are you going to need long-term care insurance? What is your home insurance cost going to be in retirement? Have you saved so much across your working career that you can actually self-insure for some of these things? Is your estate plan in place? Is your will in place? Is your trust in place? Have you specified your advance directives, how you want to be cared for toward the end of life? Have you spelled out the power of attorney and who can act on your behalf? These core documents give you the peace of mind that your retirement plan is going to go the way that you hope for. You've worked so hard to build your dream retirement. Don't let one event completely derail your retirement. So the first 4 plans are finance related, but this last one is probably the most important. Your life plan. What does your day-to-day, month-to-month, year-to-year lifestyle actually look like in retirement? And not having this life plan in place is one of the reasons a lot of people work well past their traditional retirement age. People actually have no idea what their dream retirement would look like, or what a day without the structure of going to work would actually entail. So I'd encourage you to actually think through what your dream retirement looks like. Maybe you want to finally take up that passion you have for music. Or maybe you want to buy those season tickets to your favorite sports team. Maybe you want to relocate closer to your grandkids so you can be present as they're growing up. Maybe you want to take up yoga or CrossFit, or finally run that marathon that you've been promising yourself that you wanted to do. Whatever that dream retirement looks like for you, I would encourage you to think through that plan and what your day-to-day actually looks like. Because all the money in the world cannot give you that meaning and focus and purpose for your life. Only you can decide what a dream retirement looks like. And that is different for every person. So these are the 5 plans you need in place to have a rock solid retirement plan. And like I said, I'm gonna leave a link down below to a PDF that summarizes everything we talked about in today's video. The book that actually got my wheels turning about retirement planning was this book, Die with Zero. And it actually reshaped the way I thought about my personal finances. And I did a full video explaining all of my takeaways from this book and all the life lessons that I intend to incorporate into my own finances. You guys can feel free to check that video out. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.